At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
Mr. President, to begin with, what do you see as the main problems facing Liberia? What are your main hopes in the next couple of years?
My main problem is economic development. And my hope is to overcome that problem.
Now, the United States itself has had probably a rocky year economically, as you know. Has that had an effect here?
Well, certainly anything that affects the economic condition in the States and the dollar would certainly affect us, because, you know, our dollar value is more or less tied up with the value of the dollar of the United States. And much of our trade that goes into countries that are affected by the dollar devaluation certainly must have its unfavorable reflection on us here.
What can we do? I know we're doing quite a bit, but what else? What can we do?
Well, you can do a whole lot in helping us to solve the problem of economic development, in making possible the infrastructures, some of which we have already. When I refer to the infrastructure, I talk about roads that can penetrate into the remote parts of our country, accelerating our agricultural enterprise, because our people are really now carrying on agriculture in a rather subsistent way. And we want to overcome that, introduce scientific methods so that their productivity can be increased, the standard of our living of our people to be raised, the gap between the haves and the have-nots can be breached, and we can develop a real middle-class citizenry that can come in and pool all of their resources together with all of our people in a totally involved manner to build our country up high.
Optimistic about some sort of long-range settlement?
I am optimistic. As I said, perhaps my way of thinking as against war, and it makes me have wishful objectivity in that respect, but that it's my feeling that I have a feeling of optimism.
Mr. President, as a leader of a small nation here in Africa, do you think perhaps you and others like you have a special role to play in trying to solve that Mideast thing? I mean, can you put pressure to bear on both sides and so forth?
I don't want to agree with the word pressure, because I'm an individual who rather feel that men shouldn't try to pressurize others, but at least should appeal to their better sense of reasoning and consideration and appealing, so that they would be rather conciliatory. And that with that approach, not so much from a materialistic standpoint or the point of expediency, but on the point of principle and objectivity, I think an approach on the smaller countries could certainly make an impact, a favorable impact, and suggests that an action be taken that would be better in line of peace than confrontation and war.
Do you think perhaps the solution lies in the UN, or does it have to be eventually with Israel and Egypt, for example, talking face to face?
Well, you know, the UN has been endeavoring to solve this problem from its beginning. The Organization of African Unity has lent its help. Incidentally, Liberia was among the 10 countries that had the duty of trying to mediate and make some appeal, and all have endeavored to do something. But I believe that there must be some meeting together, some coming together, in a spirit of give and take, reconciliation, and not confrontation, so that a hot war wouldn't develop. There wouldn't be destruction, because indeed, if that spirit does not develop, and there comes a confrontation and a war, it would be disastrous.
Mr. President, we hear in the States that the influence of mainland China and the Soviet Union seems to be growing in Africa. Is this true?
I would say that, by way of my assessment, I think the influence of China and the Soviet Union is growing in Africa.
Is there something that perhaps the United States is either doing wrong or should be doing that it is not doing, and consequently the mainland China and Soviet Union are going into this vacuum?
Well, you know, nature abhors a vacuum. I do not know what your great country thinks about it, but the world now, it's moving with such speed until people have to seize every opportunity to fill any point that might be considered open, that may be considered a vacuum, before conditions get in that might be difficult to get out. I think that it leaves with you to assess what you are doing in that direction.
I get the feeling that maybe we're not doing enough.
Well, make the assessment yourself.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition, a special edition of On Point. It is 4 o'clock Eastern PM. It is On Point, where our intelligent minds are here to dissect issues as they relate to politics and our nation, Liberia. As you can see, we have gone deep into the vaults of focus on Liberia. We have gone back into our time capsule. And we are going to read and dissect what was in our time capsule. What did it say? What did they predict 40, 50 years ago? And how is that now relating to issues today? If you look at the report that was just, the tape that was just read, President Tolbert was being interviewed about issues confronting Liberia. And you hear some of the things he said. If we have time, we may replay that, but for now, share the show, get involved, call. This is special. He talked about economic development. He talked about the infrastructure of Liberia being backward. He talked about agriculture being our way for subsistence. He talked about the private enterprise. Liberia cannot go anywhere without developing a private enterprise. He talks about his goal of lifting Liberia, the standard of living of our people, the development of a middle class. So Liberia will go nowhere. We don't have a development of our middle class. He talked about the Middle East. What will happen in the Middle East? We are going back into the vault. And if you listen to President Tolbert and what he said today, he said, if we do not manage what happened in the Middle East, it will be destructive. The war will be devastating. It's Tolbert, of man with vision. He talked about not being confrontational, but appealing to the consciousness of mankind, to not be forceful, but to deal with issues dealing with our own relatives and our families, and in a tune of give and take. He talks about the spirit of give and take as opposed to confrontation. War will be destructive. He talked about the influence of China and the Soviet Union. He talks about these things that we have been talking about. And then later on in the show, we are going to listen to Joseph Boakai campaign promises. You're going to compare and contrast the two. How we moved the needle in any way from 1972. That's over 50 years ago, to where we are now. It looks like we are channeling what President Tolbert said for almost 50 years ago about what the prescription for Liberia. Without those prescriptions, he felt that we were digging ourselves our own grave. So to discuss the issues with me are my co-hosts, Mr. Jimmy Eastman. Mr. Eastman, how you doing there, sir?
Hey, Jerome, it's a pleasure being here, coming to you from the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. Let's talk about our country. Let's see what we can do to help to participate in the progress that we so dearly need right now.
Great. Mr. Tao, how you doing there, sir?
I'm doing very good. It's sunny here in Houston, and it's in the low 70s, so it's a good weather. And I look forward to being part of the discussion this evening.
Mr. Tawa, I was just in Houston on Tuesday. I left on that Tuesday.
Oh.
Yeah, I was in Pearland area.
Okay, that's like towards the airport. That's around Hobby Airport. You flew in through Hobby, right?
No, I actually went to IH.
IH, then you drove south because IH is in the north, and then you drove south. Down to
Great, guys. We are going to. I don't have any means of sharing the show. If you can share the show in our in our chat room, I will be able to share it. Gentlemen, do me a favor. Share the show in your chat room, in your communities, in all your network, because this one today we are not going to be talking only about Marcos. We are talking about a generation that we consider to be the greatest generation of Liberian politics. That generation up to 1980, we will consider them the greatest generation, even though they had their own faults. So here we are, we need to discuss. We will be taking calls. We'll be displaying the comment. But Mr. Eastman.
Yes.
I'm going to you because you are the diplomat on the show. You listen to President Tolbert, a gentleman, a visionary. Now talk to me. What did you hear? What did you take from this particular video?
Well, it appeared that he had a clear vision of what would move the needle in Liberia. He mentioned the infrastructure. He mentioned agriculture. He mentioned how he carefully mentioned the influence of Russia and China. I saw him, really doing a tightrope walk about that issue. He wasn't so, forthcoming on that, but he did acknowledge it. And he reserved any direct criticism of the U.S. not doing more. I would have not necessarily replied in critique. I would have replied in suggestion. Of course, the U.S. can do more if they want to. But the political suggest of President Tolbert realized there's no need of telling them they could do more because they very well know they can. If they wanted, when they wanted to restore Europe and Japan, they came up with the Sherman Plan, which was a brilliant plan to restore those economies. They haven't come up with any plan for us. Not that they can't. It is about what do they want to. Strategically, we are in the zone that we're only supposed to be suppliers of raw materials. So it's not in their best interest to show us how to process our raw material into finished goods. I think we need to convince them one day that it is in their interest, and that's going to be the argument. But at this point, they only want to look at us as simply suppliers of raw materials, and that is not going to work. But he showed some confidence, and he showed some poise, and he showed some diplomacy, given that he's sitting in front of the biggest giant in the world, which is the United States of America. So you have to know how you word your words to them. And then there was one more part that I liked. He emphasized that he doesn't believe that some people should be pressured. And I think he was making a reflection of how he's been seeing the imposition of European and North American states, how they do use pressure on Africans and third world people instead of being, appealing to conscience. Like he suggested, it's more of, you need to do this or else. So I think he lined his position up pretty well. And I think at that time, He was the OU chairman, or about to become the OU chairman. He was also president of the non-alliance movement, which said that he is not going to be on any side, that they were non-aligned, and the World Non-Aligned Organization. So he was taking a middle ground, and to all of this, and balancing it very carefully. Again, because you're in front of the giant. So I think he handled himself well.
Great. Mr. Tawo, those of us that grew up in the back of Matthew time, he compelled or appealed to the consciences of folks that follow him that there were no way to be neutral. He says the most dangerous man or woman in any organization is he or she who is neutral. President Tolbert took the route of neutrality, non-alliance. Could that be one of the downfall of President Tolbert, that people fear him, especially the United States fear him, that he was a non-alliance, he was neutral, and they found him to be dangerous?
Okay, so in the first place, I think that is where guys like Barkers, who were groomed here, which is the same thing we see, no matter how good the intentions are. I will give you something. One of our elder, the cousin Joshua, he said, you cannot send your children to Rome and they don't come back as Caesars. And this is the problem that we keep having, even as I continue to address today. Once we leave that area and we come here, we are de-Africanized, we are Europeanized in whatever way, and we can't really look clearly. The veil is put over our eyes because we are made to feel so guilty about being black. We're referring to ourselves using that language as third word. No, we are the first word. If we know our own history, we are the first word that lay out the foundation for the world civilization when it comes to religion and everything else. For somebody to turn that around. But you see, you can only rule people through deception. You have to deceive them, and they have to agree to accept that deception. So no, but look, let me go to this. I listened to that speech many times before today. This is where Tolbert then they have problem. Not him specifically, but the American Liberian group. They came in as the elite who came to dominate. And in that process, they were so mean that they decided not to include the masses to feel that they had something to gain from the state itself. A problem that we still having today. You see, few people hijack the country, sit there, disenfranchise, let the whole masses just struggle. So sometimes when Caleb come in and say war, people think, no, the same conditions that existed for war is right now. So you could see that. And with that, you have easy recruits from within your population to depose any government. People must feel connected. So here is Tolbert trying to navigate. Go ahead and look at the what they call the declassified or CIA information on Tolbert, on the Tolbert administration. It's available. In 2002, I read most of it when they're discussing that he's heavy-handed against American interests and he must go. But this is it here. Why must Tolbert? Tolbert didn't say anything wrong. Tolbert was not a non-aligned, meaning he was neutral. No, non-aligned means we are going to self-determine. We as Africans will seek our own interest. And the Europeans, led by the Americans, said that's what no. In this whole world, we are the only people, African people, who are told that we cannot think and act in our own self-interest. And there are Africans that actually stand up to line up and support that. Somebody's enemy is not my enemy. So that they try to force you into that. Tolbert is simply laying out self-determination. If you look at the whole thing, we must self-determine. We are not going to go ahead and choose that we are with the Soviet, we are with this person. No, we are going to work with whoever can help us move forward, who we can partner with, not to be on somebody's boot. And then even up to today, with the Americans and the West, that is not allowed. So that is what we see in that speech. And yes, he's trying to be careful. But what did he say so much? The Americans are asking the question like they don't know, that they didn't do anything. And it's not in the interest for them to do anything for you because you are meant to be exploited. This is the reality of Africa. They can never help you. They're never going to help you. They depend on you for them to survive and progress and move themselves forward. Because what you have, they need it. And they decided they're not going to pay for it. They're going to strong arm you, and to the point they're going to murder you and destabilize you, like you're seeing across Africa, for them to take it. That's the reality. That is the relationship paradigm that is being established between you and them. We have to recognize this. So here's Tolbert. The guy is asking, have the American, he knows that. And Tolbert just told him, you decide. You're a journalist. You know the information. But the reason I mentioned that, I want to make a reference to something. Tolbert said this stuff almost 50 years ago. When this lady just gave the same speech at that Independence Day, she said it. Every Liberian was caught out to the U.S., they were trying to lynch her. So every time somebody stand up to even speak for our interest, there are a whole bunch of other Liberians ready to come in and sacrifice you, because there is a spiritual dimension to this. If your own house don't sell you, no one can buy you. We can't even stand behind each other, no matter how glaring the evidence is on. So you see him saying it right there? You don't have to be a rocket scientist to see that. They have never done anything for you. They're taking more. But go ahead, anybody here, go ahead and read the declassified document that they released on him, and you will see. So not lying don't mean he was neutral. Don't mean that he was saying that taking, no. We are going to self-determine, and that is a position that we should take. Let me tell you something. Anybody that is rising to do good, there's non-alliance. Cuba, don't let them fool you. Cuba sat right here 90 miles off of the U.S. They couldn't do anything because there was no alliance. Then even the Soviet fell up. China was non-alliant. They aligned with the Soviet for some time. The Soviets saw that they could overthrow or invade them. What did they do? Mao gave a speech. He said, an enemy across the sea is better than a friend next door, than an enemy next door. So in the late 60s, early 70s, because I'm talking about the normalization relationship, so they decided to normalize with the U.S. because they knew that it would take the U.S. longer time to be able to invade them because they were not strong enough than Russia that they had land border with after the border fight. This was the non-aligned movement. Nothing is rigid because we here, our Liberia traditional allies, and we hold this. And so we are not allowed to move. So a president visits China, that's another thing. We here will make, oh no, this was slapping the U.S. face. So it's like, what is the interest for us in this visit? That is what we should be discussing. Now, who is going to feel ashamed or whatever. But look, but overall, let me just land. Right there, you see him laying out. He is saying clearly in that stuff that we've given you everything. We've done everything for you. I'm echoing that lady's independent speech. You have not done much. You have not done anything for us. You need to look at one of Tolbert's speeches, which I read when I was in school. I had a book. I misplaced it. He said, if the West cannot help us, we're going to turn anywhere. We're going to turn to the east. We're going to turn to the south because we'll move our people from mat to mattresses. And that was not allowed. And it's still not allowed today.
Great. Mr. Eastman.
Yes, sir.
President Tolbert predicted 50 years ago, almost 50 years ago, that the prescription for the success of Liberia was based on enterprising. Liberians have to be enterprising. Everybody can now work for government. So where did we go wrong that now enterprising is a taboo and government is where everybody's headed to?
Excellent question. Allow me, Mr. Tower, I don't think people who want seeking their freedom necessarily want to dominate anybody else, but that's a discussion for another day. It's very true that enterprise, business, commerce It's the way the whole world knows to elevate itself. We could go through the annals of history and we remember how people used to barter, trade goods for goods. And that invited the mercantile class that acted as the middleman. So commerce has always been a way that we seek to improve our lives, to have the things we want. But what I really believe the problem is that when people get in government, it's easy just to pick the low hanging fruit. It's very difficult to make your country enterprising. It's not an easy task. There's steps you have to lay out. The things you have to do to promote economic activity. Like you have to make sure the courts are fair, because if you can't, the courts can't fairly adjudicate, nobody's going to want to invest the money. You're going to have to make sure that your population is educated, you know, that they are prepared to move to the next stage of production. You have to ensure that by educating your people. You have to ensure that the means to produce, like electricity and all of that, you have to be able to furnish that. Those are the things you have to do to become, before you can become enterprising. So when they take power, and a lot of them take power in the name of the people, in the cause of the people, they find when they find out they can't do anything else, they simply just bleed the government, hire a whole lot of people, and they don't have nothing for them to do. Go into the government covers and give themselves fantastic salaries while the masses suffer. So the actual industrializing of a country is no easy task. You know, you can talk. We hear people talk about building infrastructure, but if you're not even building infrastructure in a very strategic way, you are not going nowhere. You have to build infrastructure in the canals that will promote more economic activity. You have limited resources, so all those things you have to use the right analysis, the right analytics to know what places to develop, what places to grow. So it is a daunting task. And then the thing you talked about, Mr. Gaiman, the people not necessarily want you to start producing on your own, to start turning. I remember when Nassim Tolbert made his speech, there was a company that was scheduled to come to Liberia and invest $1 billion at that time to put up a steel melting plant. It was Kawasaki. $1 billion. Why they say we're going to do it? Because Liberia was stable. We had 100 and some more years of stability. They say, yeah, we can do this. And iron ore is right there. But that opportunity is not there now. So if you're going to get people to invest in your country, you have to lay the groundwork. And what we're seeing is that all we're doing is making the government fat. We're not laying the groundwork that will help them that will bring us tomorrow. We have to invest in our children. And Tolbert had it, he didn't mention it there, but he talked about the precious jewels. He realized if you don't invest in the children, in the youth, we have no future. And tell you the truth, if any administration comes, I would measure them by how much development or how much advancement they bring to the youth, because the youth will be able to pull us out of the quagmire we find ourselves in today.
Okay, Mr. Eastman, before you land, he talks about incentivizing for enterprising. Talk to us about how government or the state would incentivize the private sector for us to actually have this enterprising middle class that he envisioned 50 years ago.
Okay. There are a couple of things you have to do. Okay, I told you your court system is very important. That law and order is put into the right perspective. If people can go, if a businessman brings his money, like the other day in the country, they say a businessman, the police went and took the businessman money. What? You can't, that kind of thing, it has to be impossible. The way Singapore turned their country around, if a policeman were to do that same act, he will probably have been executed by now. You have to be very strong. You have to protect investors. And you have to lay the judicial framework in such a way that everything will be fair, just, swift. That's one of the things you have to put in place. Now, a lot of people talk about making funds available. A lot of things has been that, capital is not available for us to industrialize. Well, what will incentivize banks to lend? And especially to somebody who doesn't have a proven record of doing business. That's the challenge right there. But what some other countries do, they establish organizations that can guide businesses through so that they will not default on their loans. There are also ways of giving tax incentives to businesses. Give them a long time. Say, look, since you want to open this business, how many people you're hiring? 100? Don't pay taxes for 10 years. Don't pay taxes. In fact, you want to import some stuff to establish your factory. I'm not talking about importing perishable goods and consumer goods. But if you want to import machines and stuff to build a factory, it's all duty-free. Bring it duty-free. That will give the business, the enterprise, a greater incentive to do things. There is a science to this, Mr. Gaiman. I just gave you a few, but you will have to study the market, the industry that you're trying to promote, and find ways to incentivize that industry. That's what they have to do.
Great. Mr. Tao, the president said he had a vision that the way forward was developing a middle class. And he gave a prescription. He said, for this to happen, we need to build roads to penetrate the interior of our nation so people can bring their goods to markets. We need roads. We need infrastructure. We got a few. It's in the city, but we need to reach out there where the enterprise can actually happen. And it didn't materialize, and he lost his life. Here we are. What do you take? What is your take on this? We want to be short on this because we want to go to the second video. And after the second video, then we want to go back to what's happening. Go ahead.
So look at what happened here. Tolbert recognized something that the rest of the crew didn't see. And I stand by that word. They came in, they dominated for over 100 years. The evidence is there. So this is not even something for another day's debate. So let us put that behind us if we want to be honest. But look at what happened here. When remember we had the discussion here that there were factories, right? Zinc factory, battery factory, all those one. But what happened? The larger part of the population, because in the democracy, they were never, just like what's happening in the US, that is the same thing that it did there. The few guys who felt that they were at the top, they held everything. So they left out the majority of the people. They were the only one that had the factories. Tolbert realized something very quickly, that this was not going to be sustainable. But by the time he realized it was too late. The agitation was already on. And so those guys were ripe for recruitment. But look at what happened here. Look at the problem that we have in Liberia from the time and then Tolbert time and then now. Mr. Eastman mentioned something here. Education. We have the wrong education in Liberia then and we have it now. Education, my brother, it is not about, go ahead and get a degree and go and get a job. Education is about the survival of a people. It's about nation building. Education is about the nation sit and you look and say, where do we want to go? What do we need? And then you design your programs around those needs. What are our challenges? Who are we going against? What are they capable of? What are the counterweight to this? That is how you design your educational system. Then when you design that, then you now fund it in that direction, then you produce the kind of people. Because we are talking about industry to industrialize. That is how you produce a homegrown talent. If we knew that we have iron ore and we wanted to melt them and we want to do engineering and all of the technical areas, then that is how you create the programs and the curriculums in the educational system, and that is how it's funded. Let me tell you something. Almost all major businesses in this world, whether in the US or in China, they're funded by the state. Tesla, go ahead and look at the amount of money that the US government pumped into them. Boeing, all these people. Look at Africa. Where are our multinational? It doesn't exist because they told us that we shouldn't do that because to do that to compete. So this is what Tolbert was talking about, right? He realized it and he was trying to move in that direction. And I want to really believe, I read his speeches and I saw that he was really genuine. He was moving in that direction. But because of where things were, he was not trying to push it too fast because he didn't want to offset some stuff. But you could see him trying to do stuff, moving. I have cousins that were being sent to Romania and to Yugoslavia, and they came back as engineers and doctors. I have uncles and grand uncles on these programs, and they came back. And this was one of the best doctors. So you could see him moving the needle. So this is what he was talking about. But by the time he tried to do it, it was late. It was too late because the agitation already there, guys were ripe for recruit. But look, to wrap up, just from where Tolbert started, look, all these things is not about money. Money is the smaller aspect of it. It's about the intention and the desire and the clarity of ideas, right? Why is it right now? Go to Liberia, even then, but right now, go there and you say, you know what? I want for them to come and do agriculture. I tried. You come in, they say agriculture, food is our issue. Man, you will pay 10 times the amount to clear anything at the port because in the first place, your port is handed over to a European company. Just a terminal, they take over your entire port and they charge you. Then when you get it there, for you to clear it, all kinds of representative senators want to land up because they're looking at you, oh, Jerome cannot make that kind of money. It is not about what Jerome is doing can help move the country forward. It can help. No. You see, that's self-centeredness. So they want to come in. Hey, let me own 5%, let me own 2%. And if you say no, they block you, you get shut down, you have to fight all kinds of battle. This is the problem here.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please share the show. This is a day where we are going back into our archive, into our time capsule, to look at what our leaders prior to what's happening now been saying. I cannot share the show for some reason Facebook blocked me. I guess I can't share the show. So guys, go ahead and share the show. We are looking at your comment. Thank you, Riverside Pro. Theodosia, thank you very much. We got is that Majodi? We got you. We got all of you guys. We're reading the comment. We want to play the comment. Now, Mr. Eastman, can we please now go to the next video? We are going from President Tolbert now to the present. We are going to listen to Joseph Boakai deal with these same issues or speak about the same issue in a different turn. Because when he came as a savior, a gentleman who had been around, who said he had the prescription. He had the panacea. Let's listen to some of his speeches during the campaign.
No, Liberia, the country has gone backward in every area. It's all corruption, stealing with impunity. A country that I call is on autopilot because there's no leadership. And we cannot continue to risk the future of unborn generation, not to even mention the ones that are there, young people that just languishing.
I cannot understand from the day one when I met the security in this country, how can a country, Liberia, 177 years I was police, they have not a helicopter. I saw army, no helicopter. Then we talk about rapid results. Rapid results, something happening in Lofa, you get stuck in the mall, where will you go? I mean, these things don't make sense to me. So we appeal to have.
We're talking about someone with an experience, someone who knows this country. We're not talking about bringing a surprise package to Liberia. Somebody tested, somebody who is known. And why should we sit down and allow our country to just go into the hands of the wrong people? Simply because you come to Monrovia and people see you, do you know the people of country, what they think? Do you know what they need? Can you speak to them? We can sit here and let our country go down. No, Liberia, the country has gone backward in every area. It's all corruption, stealing with impunity. A country that is, I call is on autopilot because there's no leadership. And we cannot continue to risk the future of unborn generation, not to even mention the ones that are there, young people that just languishing.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the second portion of this show. We went into our time capsule and we listened to the late President William R. Tolbert. He gave his prescription on Liberia's issues and what he thought he wanted to do, and that never materialized. He lost his life. And now we are in the present. We listened during the election. We listened to one of the forerunners, Honorable Joseph Boakai, who says, the country, we cannot allow our country to fall into the abyss. He said the country is going backward. The country seems to be on autopilot. They are stealing uncontrollably everywhere. Our young people have been abandoned. The generation and unborn. We cannot risk the future. Then he said, look at our country. After he became president, the more recent one, the country, 177 years old, it doesn't even have a helicopter. The police, not even the military. If you went to Foya or Lofa County, you get stuck in the mud, how are you going to get out? And his adjutant were clapping. This is the man who came to solve the problem, saying these people are backward. 177 years, we don't even have a helicopter. He said the country, during the campaign, the country need an experienced man like me, a man who have been battle tested. He said, I have been tested. This is where we are. The country was on autopilot. They were stealing everywhere. There were no leadership, he says. The country was on autopilot because it had no leadership. But now we come back to this. Mr. Victor Nambe, welcome to the show. I'm going to start with you here. I know you didn't go into the time capsule with us. So you didn't listen to what Thomas said. What was his prescription, where he was going. But here you are, you're in the middle. Based on what you are seeing here, we have President Joseph Boakai, who said he was battle tested, ready to go and run the country that was going backward on autopilot. There were no leadership. Here we are, Mr. Nambe, your take.
Well, thank you. It's good to be with you guys. I'm sorry I'm just joining you. It's been a little crazy on my hands. But yeah, you know, I listened to a portion of what you played. I listened to President Tolbert. I think one of you guys were trying to summarize what he said, something about incentivizing entrepreneurship, you know, and President Tolbert, I've said over and over, he said a lot of good things, but he really did nothing. He was all talk, no do. He was president from 1971 up to 1980, 9 years. All the talk he talked, what did he do? Other than empowering his friends and relatives. He had over 17 relatives in top government positions. We all know Mesurado group of fishing companies, the Mesutex and all these companies. These were all Toba-owned companies. He was the largest rice farmer in the country up to his unfortunate demise. So yes, I think he meant well. I don't know to what extent what he was saying really meant what he meant what he was saying. But if you ever listen to Chipo, this is where he popularized the phrase "justice delayed is justice denied." They promised our people a lot, but all they did was all they gave us were promises. So yeah, I think he meant well, but in terms of deeds, to actualize his own TWP deeds, but not words. He was all words, no deeds. As to the current, it is unfortunate, but yeah, I think President Boakai may have fallen into, the pit that most of his predecessors fell into. He came in and he said all the right things. He's been in almost 10 months or more now. I can't say that he has accomplished, any of the things he promised. We recently saw the report by Napote or Namote, whatever it was, the guys who monitored the promises. I think they credited him with 3% of the promises that he made. So even though he's still in his first year, but I had really expected some delivery by now. I don't see that happening. I haven't seen that happening. The corruption is rampant in this government. I mean, the stories are in the press every day. From the inception of this government, even before the guy inaugurated, they were plagued by charges and allegations of corruption. The famous NASCAR story, we all know that the purchases of the vehicles for his inauguration, ever since that time, there has been one scandal after the other. And usually he doesn't say anything. I mean, we can go right back to telecom. We haven't heard the president say anything about what happened to Croma and the Liberia Telecommunication Authority. We don't know what happened there. Modal quit on his own. I'm not sure to what extent the president made him to quit, but is that all? They think they expropriated the vehicle to the GSA. What about the other money? Is he going to pay back any of this? We're hearing all the money exchanging hands right now at the legislature. There are allegations that some of the money came from the agencies of government. So, like I said, it's unfortunate, but it is starting to appear like he's going to fall into the same old, no different. Again, as I say, I always keep my fingers crossed. He still has 5 more years, 4 more active years, and then we're in the campaign season. So I hope he's going to turn things around, but I cannot say from what I've seen that he's done anything to deliver on the promises that he did to us, for which he got elected. He was in government forever. He had all the experience. He knew how to run government. That's not what we were saying. He got in government, delegated everything to everybody. Carlos Dillon and Yombi Panga, they ran the show for his nominations. The government formulation, the government took him forever. All the false starts, appointing people to tenure position. And then in the midst of all of this, the corruption that is prevalent in this government, I don't think he's done anything to arrest that situation.
Great. Mr. Eastman.
Yeah.
President Boakai said, "Honor President, we are the previous administration. It appeared that the country was on autopilot. There was lack of leadership. He wasn't speaking. He wasn't doing anything." Mr. Eastman, take on Joseph Boakai here.
Yeah, but I want to point out some things to Mr. Nangbi before he goes on. I don't think it's, if we do not correct our narrative, if we make people think that we do nothing, then we will continue this culture of mediocrity. There are many things Tolbert was doing during his time. He first of all, he allowed political liberation. It was modest, but we saw power come into to being under Tolbert. Before then, the True Whig Party did not allow a political pluralism. Okay, let's go to the economic activities. He emphasized in agriculture development, encouraging small farmers. He had a mat-to-mattress campaign, trying to bring people standard of living up. He encouraged private investment, opening free zones and all those things. Let's go to education. He built schools throughout the country, all kinds of schools. He expanded the school systems. All those multilateral schools were under Tolbert. Okay, so the challenges to Tolbert, despite all these accomplishments, Tolbert faced increasing opposition to the rising economic inequality. There was economic inequality in the country. Boldly, there were the haves and the have not. He could not change that overnight. Okay, so and then there was a deep lack of political reform. When Sawyer offered True Party a chance to change, when he challenged the True Party to run, you remember they canceled that whole election because they had to change the law that stopped only people from who had property could run. So there was a lack of correct political reform that finally, due to the economic hardships and unemployment, we culminated into they call it rights riots, but I don't think that was just for rights. There was people that were suffering. So there were things that he faced, but he did what he could. Let's look at today. Okay, let's look at Boakai now. I think it's early, for all fairness. I think it's early to judge what Boakai is doing. But we are seeing a lot of missteps in the beginning. There's allegations of corruption, allegations of misappropriation with government funds, bypassing checkpoints or
Mr. Eastman, why are you saying allegation when the person come out and plead guilty? Why will you call that allegation?
Okay, a guilty plea is in fact something that you can accept. But what I mean is it hadn't gone through a court of law for adjudication. That's why I leave it at the stage. But it has been already noted, and we shouldn't be surprised though. You see, and this is why I have a balanced approach to these things. To change an endemic system that corruption is rife throughout the system, that you can't even get a paper process in a ministry without giving somebody a kickback. To change that, it's not going to be done overnight. It's a major overhaul, and it's going to require not just the president doing it, all of us. We Liberians, we have to change our ways. We have to change our attitude. It's not the president alone.
Mr. Eastman, before I go to Mr. Tawo here, the president said under the previous administration, the country was on autopilot. There were no leadership. There were nothing. I want you to address that.
I disagree with him. I'm not sure exactly the points that you're referring to, but Mr. President Weah kept the peace. The best thing I saw them did, the Liberian dollar was not galloping inflation, was not killing us. With the exodus of all those organizations that were in Liberia, the nonprofits and the UN, all those, with the exodus of, I don't know, say how many billion a year, if the Liberian economy could have collapsed. But Weah and his finance people somehow found a way to keep it afloat. That we didn't see a gallop in inflation. So we had leadership. Maybe what he's referring to, did we address issues that were going on when we heard about people passing, people getting killed, the auditors who come to mind, all those. If you're talking about we didn't have leadership in that sense, well, let's look at it. What is he doing now? We're hearing the same things. How many times has he reacted to it? Why do we see presidents and leaders hesitant in reacting to these things? This is what a lot of people want to see. They want to see him saying, our president saying something about these social issues. So for him to say that we didn't have leadership, I would not agree. I would not agree at all. At least they were able to turn over the country peacefully, and the country will stay afloat. Now it's his turn to address those things, and we have yet to see it. We've seen people case walking out of court. They say they had people down for corruption. We haven't seen anybody in court or brought down guilty in the courts yet. So you haven't done anything yet.
Great.
Just a second, Mr. Gaiman. Let me come back a little bit on Mr. Eastman. You know, I don't disagree with him. I think Tolbert did much better in liberalizing the political space. I will give that to him, but I'm not sure to what extent that was of his own choice. He was forced to. Otherwise, he would have allowed elections in Monrovia for the mayor of the city of Monrovia, Quia Johnson, against Amos Sawyer. That was during his term. That was disallowed. Let me tell you, he said campaigns. That's all Tolbert had. Campaigns. No more mat to mattress. How many people were lifted from mat to mattresses? No more Pusawa after 1980. How many people were living up Pusawa after 1980? Or where were the tangibles? Rally time. I don't think Jimmy has any concept of how many people were made to sit in cow dung to contribute to the rally time. The rally time. How many people were made to sit in the sun midday in the middle of the town staring up into the sun? I'm aware of that because my relations did that. They went through that. All because they had to contribute to the rally time. So when I say President Tolbert, I think there's a lot he could have done. He did more than Tolbert did, I agree, but there is a lot. He promised a lot and did nothing. What he did was create Maserati group of companies, give it to his brother. Stephen Tolbert Estate, give it to his brother. So the incentivization was mostly kept within the family. He did not allow the country, the indigenous people to benefit. I don't think Jimmy is aware of that. I just wanted to let you know that.
Great. Mr. Tao, President Boakai is saying the country is on, or the country was on autopilot, and that they should give him the country because we could not afford to risk the future of the unborn and the young people now. You address that. Your take.
Okay. So look at what happened here. When I first came to this program, the first day, it was December of last year. And I said that here, that the Boakai government was not in power yet, had won the election, was in the process of taking power, that it was going to be worse than the Weah government. It's not because I knew Boakai as a political person, or even because I understand how the political system that is given to you. We don't want to admit this stuff. It was given to you, and it was never meant to work. It is inherently corrupt. What does somebody want to call the culture? Well, the culture around this particular political system is European in nature. So yes, then the culture, the European culture, that is the embodiment of this stuff. It was never meant to work. It's corrupt. So because I want for us to understand this, look, if we cannot really articulate and actually see these things that are evidently clear for over hundreds of years that we are struggling with, trying to make sense of, and we are saying we're trying to find solution, then there is the problem. We have to be able to see this stuff and admit it. It's not, that is the way forward. It don't mean because some people say, okay, then the question is, what do you suggest? It is not what I suggest. What we have, is it working? No. We see it. Was it meant to work? Look at it. It was given to you by somebody who control you, who conquer you. Then no, if that is the intention, they cannot give you anything that will benefit you. Once we come to that consensus, then we can say, okay, then how do we look at this stuff? What should be the next approach? How do we make this now to maybe reorganize it for it to suit us? Then we can come and start look, but if we don't even want to admit, then that's the problem. So it's going to be worse than we are. And the one Cummins come after it is going to be worse than Cummins. Who is sponsoring Cummins right now? Who's financing them for all these 18 years? So that's the thing. But look, Boakai, them, and all these guys, you see these countries, they're impossible to run under the system which they give you. They're corrupt, don't get me wrong, but they're impossible to run. Because their prescriptions, their rules and regulations, they're almost like a scientific method that is lined upon how these things should function. And you must work within that framework. The countries, they created them artificially, bankrupt them. You depend on funding. It is through this thing then they give, okay, this is why you must do this, what you must do. If not, you are shut down. This is where we are. So they all talking. They have no, we didn't do anything special. What did they do special? Really? Go and borrow more money? I can run the country in Liberia. I just go and borrow more money, give one port here, give one stuff here, or agree for them to write more laws that homosexuality should be allowed, or that our cultural practices should be banned, and they give you some money, and then some are loans, some are little grants, and you just pocket some and then pay a few people. That is what the guys are doing. They want to praise Ellen. It's the same thing Ellen did for 12 years. She didn't do anything innovative. If she did anything innovative, you're going to see the result. After she left, after 12 years, they said there were trillions of dollars floating around the country. Where is the result? Where is the result? So it's the same thing, my brother. They didn't do anything differently. It is the same thing here. Boakai, then were just talking. They come in. They're not doing anything. Boakai is not achieving anything. This guy, they have no interest. Look, you know the Boakai government. I have never had people so close in that government, in any other government than the Boakai government. They're people that are relative, that like my brothers, that campaign for him. They were not given the job, apparently because of the power struggle. So you know what they are? They're traveling buddies. Almost all the trips are going to come as part of the first family. They're making thousands. I'm not quoting this out of vanity. I talk to them.
Mr. Goodman.
So no, please don't interrupt.
Go ahead. Let's go to the next topic.
Tao is coming. I just want to comment briefly on what Mr. Tao is saying. Go ahead, sir, when you're done.
Yeah. So this is what we have. So Boakai, they can't achieve anything. All the stuff they say it so that apparently the fool Liberian people. Okay, that's just it. So this is where we are. It's going to get worse. It's going to get worse. Okay, they have no solution. All they're doing, they've been out of power for 6 years. They're going to lose. The WIA group is waiting to win. They come back to, they're going to be worse because they're going to come and say they didn't steal enough, just like these guys are doing now. So this is what we have. But to just close, remember what Mr. Nangwe just said. I said it here. The problem that the Tolbert administration had that he was speaking on was they held onto everything and they did not include the general public. They didn't include the people. At the time that they were trying to do it, it was too late. Everything was ripe for people to be recruited. So it was like they were trying to do some damage control. Maybe he meant well, but it was too late. And we're seeing the same thing. If you create an environment in which you don't include the people for everybody to feel like they're part of it, it's going to fall.
Thank you. Mr. Nangwe, real quick, so we'll go to the next one.
Thank you. I'll be real quick. I agree with Mr. Tao and even Mr. Easton. I think the problem this current president is having, part of the problem is he knows government. He's still long in government. He knows where the problems are with government.
Yeah.
He should have come in as a disruptor, right? Stir things up. But his problem is he is trying to build on a broken foundation. That is his problem. You have a bloated government. He is still appointing town chiefs. Why? You have legislators getting $45,000 every 3 years. Why can't he stop that? He has a rescue legislator in it. Don't tell me he can't do it. Why is he signing on to a budget that will allow that? Why? Why is he not celebrating Josiah Jokai at the CSA, who is doing his best to shrink the government's payroll? Why is he not being celebrated? So these are some of the problems, and this is what is frustrating us, because we really believe he knows what to do. He's either he's unwilling or he's unable to do what needs to be done. And this is what is plaguing his government. There are lots of good things he could be doing that he's not doing, and we don't understand why not. Some of them I've just enumerated. There's a lot more he could do. All these trips he's taking, maybe that's not the way to go. Fix the problems at home, and the outside will begin to appreciate you more. And that's how I see it.
Great. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. If it's 4 o'clock on the East Coast, it's on point. And I have the best and the brightest minds here to dissect. We went into the focus on Liberia's archive, and we went into our time capsule. And we listened to the interview from CBS and William R. Tolbert. Brilliantly done. And you can see that William R. Tolbert 50 years ago was predicting what is happening today. From war to the devastation in the Middle East to the Chinese and the Soviet Union coming to Africa, all of these things were predicted. Now we pivot to current event in Liberia, the Senate, the House of Representatives, the legislature for sale. Now people want to know why there is such a problem between the leadership, the CDC, and Fonati Kofa. And I'll give you a little backdrop. All of these folks that are into leadership now are not members of either one of the parties. Nyobli Kranga, who is the Senate Pro Tem, is a member of the Liberty Party. She leashed onto Joseph Boakai to where she's at. Fonati Kofa is not a sedition, he's a Liberty Party thing. He leashed onto George Weah, and he's Speaker of the House. The more provocative and lying senator in the Senate, Dara Dillon, is not from either one of those parties. He is from the Liberty Party. These are people that do not have constituency. They rely on mishaps and misstep and leech onto other folks to be to where they are. Now, let's show you a photograph that is staring the sedition. They are feathers. They are hot under the collar. Let's look at this photograph. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to look at this photograph, whether you are a sedition or non-sedition, and see if this would not ruffle your feather. Can we look at that photograph, please?
You sent it to whom?
It's in the chat room.
Okay. We didn't. Okay, let me see what I can do quickly.
Yes. You will see in this particular photo, you will see a stalwart of the CDC party in Thomas Falah. After the election, an election in which young men and women laid down their lives for Thomas Falah and the CDC party in Foya. Mr. Eastman, do you have that photograph? It's in our chat room.
Not yet. I'm going there now.
Okay.
I'm going there now to try to pull it.
This gentleman, there's a young man by the name of Momo that was killed in his house in Foya. This young man, his crime was, they said, he had the photograph. There you go. Here is the photo that is staring the feathers of seditions. This is a man on whose behalf 3 people were killed in Foya. The day after the election, he never spoke to his constituents. He got up and drove to Joseph Boakai's house and paid his homage, bowed down to Joseph Boakai without even speaking to the families of children who died on his behalf. So when you see this man doing this, seditions are generated. To whom does this guy owe his loyalty? To the nation? To his political party? To his constituents that died to bring him to where he is? And fast forward to the House to have over $2 million in cash, $25,000 per, multiply that by 73 to remove a particular gentleman named Fonati Kofa. And Thomas Fala, if the president of the nation is killed or incapacitated, the law says the deputy, the vice president, becomes the president. In this case, if Kofa was removed as Speaker of the House, Thomas Fala supposed to be Speaker of the House according to the law. So here we are. Mr. Eastman, you are the diplomat here. You can see between and between the smoke screen. This is what's happening. Thomas Fala and the likes have been exposed. They were trying to depose this man, that he would be the direct beneficiary of what was happening. So here we are. Seditionists are looking at Thomas Fala as a man who is most likely a tribalist, more loyal to his tribe, to his custom, to his tradition than the nation and the Constitution. Your take.
You know, what is conflicting for me is these representatives, they have brought up accusations against the speaker that he's corrupt and doing a lot of misdeeds. But if that is true, what was the reason they had to bribe other members of the legislature? Why didn't they simply present their case? So there is something amiss, and they're not admitting it. And I can tell you why they're not admitting it. All those who are involved in this cash violence, in this bribery, they are scheduled to be sanctioned against. So now they're trying to hide it. But if people have received this money, everyone that I've heard say they received cash violence, but they never say who they got it from. I think what this whole thing shows that they don't really care for Liberians. I think Mr. Tower was saying the same thing. We do not see people that sincerely want to raise the condition, the standard of living for ordinary Liberians. All this clamoring is for self-interest. Because if they only wanted to see Liberia, they don't have to get bribed. But it's all about self-interest. We are in some serious problem in Liberia, because until we get people who advocate when they're talking about carry on development, instead of taking 150,000, putting in each of their pocket, they will give it to the chief in the village and let them sit down and decide how they want to build the county or the town. So we all the smoke, there's so much smoke screen right now. When the dust finally settles, I agree with you. It will look like it's very likely tribalism will be a part. And it's also what is really going to be driven beside tribalism is self-interest. Everybody doing it for what they can get. But poor Liberia, ordinary Liberians are the ones to suffer, because nothing will go on properly. These gentlemen who on the panel with us, if you are not laying the foundation to improve ordinary Liberians' life, I hear people talk about all these differences, the rail authority, the MOU or something. All these things have not come in fruition yet. So you can't talk about it until it comes in fruition. So Mr. Sam Willow, you can't talk about these things until we see it. It's just a promise. Wait till you see it coming from fruition. So, yeah.
You want to talk, if you want to talk to Mr. Wallow is here to sell you pie in the sky. So we don't talk about it until the pie comes. The manna came, they got to come. Mr. Nambe, before I go to Mr. Tawo here we are. We are talking about a presidential candidate, Joseph Boakai, who said that President Weah wasn't speaking, he wasn't taking action, the country was on autopilot. We have never seen anything of this magnitude, not under the Ellen government, definitely not under the Weah government. This is not even on autopilot, it's retrogressing, doing absolutely nothing. And now here we are. The folks who have been ensnared in this now saying it's only $25,000 that were promised. They gave me $15,000 up front, and then when we move in, I get the other $10,000. But the man who they pay Master Key and skim $200 off the top for for delivering for delivering the loot. Then those guys who were ensnared now said it's only $25,000, but don't feel sorry for Fonati Kofa because Fonati Kofa gave up $45,000 to vote him in. Mr. Lambert, it's scary out here. It's only $25,000. I'm getting a feedback.
Yeah, there is.
Everybody else, let's mute while he speaks.
Yeah. So I wasn't listening, bro. I tell my colleagues, I'm not a fan of Fonati Kofa. I don't know him at all. All I know is what I've read about him from his life here in the States to when he got back home, from Liberty Party to CDC, and, whatever. But I have to say, there has to be a reason why this present government has been persistent in trying to move on him. I mean, from the very early days, there were several attempts made on trying to remove him before even the Yeka Kaluba. Well, first there was the contest between he and Representative Kuhn. We all know what the president did. Invited the legislators to his house, and the report was that money was offered. That didn't work, and then there was the coupon for the $500 or so that Yeka Kaluba. So you have to wonder. On top of that, I have to say, I am really impressed. Never mind what Fonadi could have done that he didn't do, but he's on record now for the first time authorizing an audit of the House of Representatives, and that has to mean something. And only for that reason, I would rather see him hang on for another maybe year or two, and let's see how far he gets with that. And I think there are a lot of people who are frightened by this. Yeah, I know you spend a lot of money to come into the speakership, which I don't condone. And right now, the same money is being used to remove him. But if you're going to remove him, then do it properly, right? I think the use of money, $25,000 with $15,000 upfront and all of that, I think it needs to be investigated. Like one of my colleagues previously said, where is this money coming from? Who's putting this money up? But with all that said, I appreciate the fact that Fonati, yes, in the formulation of the budget, the budget was altered. He said he couldn't recognize the signature, whoever signed for it, but it looks like he has collected himself and he's trying to find his way. And he has now taken a pledge to audit the House. He is taking a pledge to streamline the budgeting process, meaning the next fiscal budget will have to be scrutinized very, very stringently. I hope that's what he means. So I'm all for that. And so this is why I think trying to make a move on him right now is very, very suspicious. Who tends to benefit from making a move on Fonati Kofa? If it's not a unity party, I can't think of any other person who tends to benefit. I saw Fala in the mix and all of that. I'm not sure if he's real, because if Fonati were to be removed, they will put the position up for election. Yeah, this deputy speaker will act briefly. I think 6 months or whatever that is, I heard. But they have to call for this. And I don't see how the opposition will retain that position, which is necessary to maintain checks and balance. And so I'm interested in seeing how this is going to play out. Unfortunately, I think the speaker has lost mojo. I think this might be another, Edwin Snow, redux. where snow was being removed, he refused, and he had these dueling sessions, dueling sessions where he would call a session and the opposition would call a session, and he couldn't muster a quorum, and the opposition always came up with a quorum, and so eventually he had to cave in. I'm afraid this is what we're going to witness. I like to see what's going to happen on Tuesday and Thursday of this coming week.
Great. Mr. Tao, here we are. President Joseph Boakai, in his allegation against President Weah, that President Weah was do nothing president, the country was on autopilot. Here we are. Joseph Boakai is like someone said, if the country was on autopilot, it is now in free fall, Mr. Tao.
So in the first place, I mentioned here, this democracy that you have is very corrupt. It is based on it work like this. Even here in the U.S., because you always made reference to the U.S., it's about how much money you have and how much media publicity they give you. So if you're popular and if you have people that stand behind you to fund you. So what that does is it brings a lot of people with unclean hands, a lot of people with hidden agenda. And so that is what we are seeing. But I want to ask a question to the Boakai administration. What is it that they really are trying to accomplish for which they want the leadership of both houses? You already have the Senate. Okay, you fought through and you got that. What have you really brought through? If to say the government brought some good policies, and it's like, hey, we brought these policies, but it's dying in the house, in the lower house, because of opposition, and we want to move the Liberian people forward. But we're not seeing that. You have the Senate, you can't even utilize it the right way. You want the House also, the lower house. So what are you really going, what is the intent? So the only other thing here is this, is that they plan on carrying massive corruption and they just want for it to just go through without any question if you want to look at it that way. Because I really don't see what they stand to really gain by controlling both houses. I mean, what are they putting forth on? Good policies that is dying in the House of Representatives that Kofa is standing in front of, or the CDC group? I'm yet to see that. So Liberian people should really be asking this question. Why do the government want both houses so much? But look, when it comes to the Kofa stuff, these guys are very fraudulent. Look, I don't know Kofa as a person, but Kofa's wife, because I'm getting a lot of trouble, like my own family, from saying this, because she's like my sister. But it's not about whether you're my sister or you're my brother. It's about Liberia. Where was Kofa when the Senate, when they all took all kinds of retreat? The same Kofa was already there when they were sharing the country's money. Isn't the same Kofa that were pushing to ride in Keke, supporting that they should release 45,000? All of a sudden, the same Kofa is now ready to audit. No, all this stuff is a scam that they're trying to run. All the other audits, what do we even believe in audit? If they can audit regular people that walking around with slippers on and nothing happening, it's the House of Representatives that will audit, and will the report even come out? No, you know that each time they set it an audit, they have to allocate resources for that audit. So they're trying to steal another money on top of stealing. So that is what I'm seeing here. Okay, these guys are not going to do anything for you. If there is anything, it is this House of Representatives. They need to shut these guys down. Look, this country is hijacked by criminals. And the base of that is in the House. We have to find a way to remove these guys. Election is not going to do it. You've been voting, you voted for the first 12 years, you remove some crooks. Worse crooks got in. When we came around, they were worse. They are vicious bloodsuckers right now. Guess what? The next group that are going to come there, they're going to be eating flesh. So this is where we are.
Thank you. Thank you. Anthony Gay, thank you for coming in. You're going to take on number 3. Number 3 here. Usually, the House and the Senate, they are separate branches of government. They don't get involved with anybody's issue. But when money get involved, when they were dividing money, the Senate were dividing money in Grand Bassa County, the Dara Dillon, the Snow, they didn't say anything. Now we got money in the House, plenty of money, and they don't get anything. All of a sudden now, Dara Dillon talking, Snow talking. But before we get to that, let's talk about the Senate. We've been hearing the lower house. We're not lower because they're all equal. The House of Representatives.
Yeah, the lower house. Go ahead.
Yeah, we've been hearing some man cussing. We're not talking about small cussing, man cussing. They've been going on and carry on. After we address that, I want to address real quick. There was a letter in the public domain with a young lady writing the president of the Republic of Liberia and saying, I am a servant. I am willing. I am ready to serve. Appoint me. Who is this young lady? Where is she from? Is she actually an outsider who is saying, bring me in, let me do what I can do. I'm the right person for the job. So we'll get to that. But let's get to this, the sale, the Senate and the House for sale. Sir, you were running at one time for this particular position. You missed your calling. You were going to get your $25,000. You missed it, Mr. Gay. The House is on, the Legislature is on sale. Not only the men, but they have the women, on the other hand, equally competing with the men for corruption. 50-50. Equal right for women and men. The women are corrupt as the men. You touched onto that. You go ahead, sir.
Thank you very much. Good evening to everyone. Sorry, I was supposed to be on earlier, but my job is I was on call and I had to take care of a task. Look, Mr. Gilman, and first of all, I want to commend everyone who spoke earlier on the other issue. For the record, I had an intent to contest for the Senate seat in Grand Juliet, and I withdrew my candidacy for personal reasons. But I'm still young, and I still have an opportunity. Who knows what God has for me? Having said that, look, Mr. Gilman, what is happening in Liberia, like Mr. Tolbert just alluded to, we can't wait for election any longer to, have our saying in Liberia. We will use what is prescribed in the Constitution to set an example. And currently, as we speak, there is a mobilization ongoing to remove the first person, which is Senator Dillon, out of office because all he promised had not been, lived up to, and we'll start from there. But having said that, what has been happening is very unfortunate for Liberia. We held this government accountable from the very get-go that there are no vehicle for police officer in 14 counties. Yet, their president signed a national budget with $11.8 million in it for lawmakers. That was our first red flag, that we flagged that this administration was heading the wrong path. Today, we're hearing about an alleged $25,000 with down payment of $15,000 to remove a speaker from the House of Representatives. I don't care what the speaker did, whatever the case may be. Bribery is a crime under our law. That in itself is a crime under our law. There are also prescriptions method as to how a speaker or any elected official can be removed from office. And with the concurrent, with two-thirds majority vote, the Senate had to concur to remove that person from office. So all of these things are not being followed, right? So what is happening right now in Liberia is very dangerous for our nation. Our democracy cannot be on sale like that. We can't say we profess, democracy, free will and all of the different things, and we're doing the complete opposite. These are the same people who sat down and make a law and say we have a tail lane in Liberia when there was no such thing called tail lane, but just so they can drive on the opposite side of the street to go to work. And in the process of doing so, hitting other people's car, other people losing their lives, some people sustaining severe injuries. So, Mr. Gilman, if Liberia mean business, we ought to solicit signature to remove these people from office one by one. This is uncalled for. This is unacceptable. This is very embarrassing. Like, people don't even have a job. Most people are not even receiving their salary on time. And we have these people doing what they're doing. So for the House of Representatives, I saw Musa Belede just posted something. The number went from 47 signature to 938. So each day the number reduces. Each day the number reduces because these guys are playing politics. Now, Unity Party is not, innocent in this process. And I want to commend, Mr. Nangbe for saying so. These guys are doing what they're doing, and Thomas Fala is cutting the middle of everything. Thomas Fala is not on the CDC side. If I were advise CDC today, maintain the House, you may have lost the presidency, but you have the third most powerful position in the country. The Speaker of the House is greater than the Senate Pro Tem. Can do a whole lot of things politically. And if CDC should remain relevant as a political party in Liberia, you need that speakership. Put all aside all of your differences and maintain this House of Representatives. If you think you are a relevant political party in Liberia, I'm not a seditious, I'm from the ANC. And I've never supported CDC politically. But I can give them the free political advice. Keep your party together, especially maintain the speakership. Because what Unity Party is doing, they are trying to have monopoly in politics in Liberia. And so, to speak on the letter of intent that you mentioned, it is a great letter, well written, granted. But we got to know, who is this person? What does this person bring to the table? Where have they worked before? I like the fact that she outlined places that she worked. Well, some of our recollection is coming to ourselves now that Mel Jones, remember the $20 million of Mel Jones, what's the name? Loan to market women. We heard this lady was part of that leadership, dishing out the money to the market women. And so this is the perfect opportunity for Liberians to scrutinize this lady, vet her. Is she new? Where is she from? It has already been established that she is a member of the Unity Party. She's also one of the highest donors to the Boakai campaign. So presenting this letter and acting as though, she's innocent of everything that's going on, that's a dangerous play. I like the fact that she ushered herself out there, but if you're an insider and want to act as though you're an outsider, they will have to question your intent. We know what happened with this Mel June circumstance, and today Mel June has disappeared on the political scene in Liberia because it did not fare well for him. So I like the fact that she put herself out there and we can scrutinize her. Now you back my time.
Thank you. Victor Namwe, for the first time, we see someone going through the public space to appeal directly to the president for opposition. Well, according to sources and what Mr. Gay is saying, it is a very shrewd and smooth political move to present yourself as an outsider, whereas you are actually insider. She's appealing to someone to please get the letter to the president's desk so the president can see and talk on her behalf. When she was meeting with the president a couple of days ago, she and her parents were meeting with the president. So this is the deception that we are talking about in all spheres. It's a number your take.
Is it for the Commerce Ministry position?
We are doing all three together.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know if there's anything wrong with that, Jerome. If the lady feels she's qualified, I don't think there's anything wrong with her lobbying people to get her name to the president. It depends on how on the vetting committee they have to vet her and make sure she's fit for the job.
Mr. Nambe, how we talk about the honesty? How can you say someone please get me to the president, get my letter to the president there when you're sitting with the president every day? How is that? Don't that say something about you?
Well, yeah. I mean, you can be a part of a team, Jerome, and meet with the president, but that doesn't mean you're close to the president. I think what she means is people who have the president's ears should help her get her name into his ears. Again, if a Liberian feels qualified and they think they want to work for Liberia, I think they should be given the opportunity to do so. I think this is a mistake when we win elections in Liberia and we make the government exclusively of the winning party. Someone mentioned on some of the network, for instance, the president right now is struggling trying to fundraise. What is wrong with calling on Alexander Cummings, for instance, to help? What is wrong with calling on Dr. Clarence Moneyback to help? These are people who have wide-reaching tentacles. They know people. Bring in a consortium of Liberian professionals and to help you build up your portfolio and get out there and do the hustle. Maybe that will help. So yeah, I don't know if this lady is already an insider. I doubt if she is. Yes, she may have met with the president, but I don't think she probably has that kind of close proximity to the president like other people do. And so
Mr. Nangwe, the lady was a steward in the Ellen Johnson administration working with Jones. So she's an insider.
All right, I will take a pass on there. I'll defer to Mr. Eastman. I think he's more of an insider there.
Okay, what's about the Senate, the legislature for sale, real quick?
No, I think I've already said my piece on this. I think it's wrong, and I really hope, quite frankly, I think the legislature is running the country right now, even the executive branch. Yeah, they seem to get away with any and everything that they want. And I think there has to come a time when we must be able to put a stop to it. I just don't believe that we're helpless. I think we should be able to call them. But yeah, the whole idea of taking bribes to remove the speaker, I think it's wrong. And I'm not sure if there's not some illegality happening here that the Justice Ministry should not take cognizance of, or even the Anti-Corruption Commission. I mean, there's a lot of evidence around. I'm not a legal person, but you have all these people who are claiming that they receive money for this and that. I think it's about time that the Justice Ministry took interest in these matters, or even the Anti-Corruption Commission. I think it's wrong. There is a process laid out if you want to remove the speaker. There's nothing wrong with that. If you can garner 2/3 majority to remove the speaker for cause, you should do so. But the way they're going about it, from what we're hearing, I think it's the wrong move. The wrong way they're doing it. With all this money they're throwing around, $2 million. I saw somebody put somewhere in Sino where there is a school building where the kids are actually sitting on the floor, and it's not just Sino County; it's all over the country. $2 million could do a lot for our people. So yeah, I think there's a reason here for the Justice Ministry to get concerned, and even the Anti-Corruption Commission.
Great. Mr. Taiwo, we got 10 minutes here to close and do everything. We're going to do all your closing and everything else. So tackle this. The letter to the letter for the Commerce Ministry and job for sale. I think you got some money. You could actually get a job over there, Mr. Taiwo. You got some money. Go ahead.
I refuse to even work there when they pay me. But look at what happened here. There is a problem there. There is an ethical problem there. If she knows the president, if she worked in that area, and if it is up to that level that I'm saying based on this information that Mr. Gay just gave, and if that she even funded, and then for her to pretend like she don't know the president, then, but it happened in this country. I will tell you something. And remember, they have the bidding. You have to bid publicly. But you can already have the contract, but you just have to go and bid for it. So a lot of contracts that are received is like that. You go on a website and just bid for it. You're not going to get it. You already have it. Then you just do the protocol. So maybe that is what she was doing. Hey, look, you're already going to meet the president. Just post something out there. And and this is the democracy that you have. I mean, why do we actually seem surprised, though, when you say, go ahead and read a book called Democracy for Sale? I bought the book in 2007. Democracy is actually a business. It's a business. Here in the U.S., when they legalize corruption, they call it lobbying, where they throw money around. That is what we are seeing. So why are you surprised about what is happening in Liberia? You're not surprised about the one that is happening here. When you are campaigning in the U.S., now you have to have at least about maybe $2-3 billion or more if you're going to be successful in running to win presidency. Who have that kind of money? It's not the people. If you're going to represent the people and you have to raise that much money, then whoever gives you that money, you're going to serve that person. This is what I'm saying. This is a corruption mark, that default mode, corruption mode that is built in this stuff. Even my brother Gay here, who a Cummings supporter. Cummings is not going to be any good. It doesn't matter what Cummings' intention is. He's been funded for 18 years now. So by the time, 22 years, he's going to come there, you got to pay the creditors. Liberia is the collateral that they're promising. That is the reality. Let us, and look, you see, we're trying to kid ourselves. People give us something that can't work. We're trying, it's like they give you a leaking bucket and you trying to still make it, man, throw that away. There was one of my mentors, Dr. Amos Wilson, said that for you to hold on to something that is wrong and try, sometimes it's good for you to lose hope. Because people say, oh, you lost hope. Lose hope, because when you lose hope in something, you discard that stuff. Then you know that you need to find something else. It don't mean you stop the process on where you want to go. But just that this particular stuff that was given to you, you put it to the side and then you find something else. It is in that losing hope is where you become creative and you become realistic and practical on something that can work. And so that is it. But look, oh no, you muted.
Sorry, one quick question. Are you against democracy as it's being presented?
Yeah, democracy as defined.
Or are you against capitalism?
Yeah, democracy as defined. Yeah, democracy as defined for us by the West. Look, you think democracy as a concept exists everywhere? It even exists everywhere. What the model that is given to us? Let me tell you, any form of leadership, of governance, politics, religion, have a cultural root, orientation, or genesis. It has to come from your culture. Have a form of leadership that is democratic. That is everything. You can take that and fashion it out for it to suit present day. Somebody don't tell you we are looking for witchcraft. This is the greatest witchcraft. That in your culture, in your tradition, that there is nothing there that is good in the way you can govern yourself. But so that's that. We're going to bring you something. You try that with anybody else in this world, they will tell you, say you have lost your mind. We're the only people. Okay, so but look, I do that, but look, let me close here. When we're talking about the Tolbert stuff, right? Tolbert them, he came at the last minute, and they're trying to hold on, just like my brother said. The Eula man, even though I disagree with him inviting the criminal fanatic Kofa, but that's another story. Because I think if they were doing that research, they won't let him lecture them. But look, but when he came in. When he tried to do it, it was too late. So that is where this thing came from. And this last thing here, we all sit here and we say there must be a change. We want to change, quite all right. But we don't know how the change should happen, right? Because we are leaning, because when Bacchus then came in, what was the problem? The same system that was in place that we needed to replace. They came in with them and they were trying to maintain the same system. That is the thing that is happening all over. Anyone else that took over, change that system in order for them to sustain. China, Iran, don't let them lie to you about North Korea. That is their own enemy. They keep telling them that they're hungry, but every year their population keep rising. But if they're hungry and they're dying from hunger, how are they increasing? So this is it. Look in our own society, our own culture.
Thank you.
Let us do this work. What they gave us would never work. It would never. We sit here every day trying to make sense of it. It don't make any sense.
Thank you very much. Mr. Nabe, 1 minute closing.
Thank you very much. Great show. Again, I'm sorry I joined you guys late. I like the fact that once in a while we dip into history, and because we get informed by what happens previously to correct ourselves as we look to the future. I think President Tolbert meant well. Compared to the rest of the president before him. But I think he himself was hamstrung by the opposition that Jimmy mentioned earlier. Yeah, he had intense opposition within the TWP. He was not their choice. Tolbert was not a choice to succeed Todman, but he managed to, find his way to the executive mansion. But when he got to the mansion, the presidency is very powerful. You got the bullet pulpit. There's a lot you can do. And he made a lot of promises that he kept none of. Mat to mattress, no more pusa after 1980, all of these. Those were all slogans to placate the ordinary, the indigenous people, to keep us at bay. And I think it was inevitable that the coup was going to happen because the very chicks that he sent abroad were coming home to roost. Most of the people who were agitating were people who himself sponsored when he was vice president. And so the people got educated and they came back. And they decided to educate the people, fertilize the ground. Samuel Doe took advantage. And of course, we had a coup, unfortunately. But hopefully, we'll learn from the past. But coming back to the present, Dr. Boakai, President Boakai, has an opportunity. I don't think he's going for a second term. So he's not too preoccupied with running for second term, all of that. So a lot of us believe he will put all of his energy into this one term. But from the look of things, it looks like the country is on autopilot, like he has said, and the country was before him. We don't see him in charge. A lot of other people seem to be running things here, and except him. And I'm confused as to why he hasn't seized the moment. There are a lot of things that this president could do that the president is able to do that he has not done. Shrink the size of government, that's something within this. You don't need legislature to do that. Reduce the payroll, tighten the belt on corruption. There's a lot of corruption that's happening under this current government. It's in the press every day. People walking away with so many millions of dollars, here and there. Look at public works. Almost $9 million wasted on the roads. Where are we? We're back to where we were. And the public works minister is still there. When it to get upset, and say, what, enough is enough. This is not what I promised my people. You guys are not helping me. Reach out for the government, bring in new brains, bring in new ideas, bring in new people to help you out. So there's a lot he can do, and we're hoping that he will get to it. But yeah, we've been hoping for 10 months now, and it's coming on to almost a year. Hopefully, you'll find his way.
Thank you, Mr. Well, look at Mr. Gay going out. Okay, Mr. Gay, real quick, 1 minute. You're closing.
Yeah, thank you. While doing my closing, can you put on the screen Mr. Sanwato message that spoke about Boakai record, the history record you're making, because my closing will focus strictly on that, and I will forward in what we discussed today, because I need to set the record straight.
What we don't want to do is we do not want to get a
No, I'm not giving.
We don't want to get. We don't want to get the
there
opportunity.
You go. That's enough for me. Because I want to hold you accountable. I don't do that often, but as a engineer in my field, data infrastructure and networking, I understand data transportation very well. And my exposure to where I work and everything I've done, in order for starting to be successful in Liberia, we need a reliable electricity, hands down. Without reliable electricity, Starlink will be a failure from day one to the last day. MOU are not contracts. They are potentials. You don't celebrate MOUs. A woman don't celebrate because she's pregnant. She celebrates when the baby comes out. Anything can happen during the pregnancy. For you to sit here, just as you guys did, to celebrate yellow machines, and up to this day, we have gone almost how many months? And the gentleman agreement stay pending and nothing has been done. And our AFL of Liberia watching those machines, and what are the revenue coming in for us? It almost 10 months since the administration came into office, and you continue to do try and error. You went to South Korea and came out empty-handed and signed 23 MOUs. Now, one of them have materialized yet. So this is the reason why you don't celebrate these things. You don't understand that having solar farm, you need a storage place. You need a functional electric grid, so that when you generate more electricity, you can send the remaining electricity back on the grid to other people to sell. You don't have a good grid. You can't even maintain the CLSG line. You don't pay your bills on time. How are you going to brag about Starlinks? How? Starlink, yes, will be a game changer if we have reliable electricity. And since the administration that came into office, they are not taking the step to work and give us reliable electricity. All other sector of government and private sector, no industry will function without electricity. And there were information technology also will come into play. Yes, Mr. Tao, you are frustrated with everything that people have done in Liberia based on the government function and everything. But we don't know what Mr. Cummings has for Liberia. One thing we know for certain, that his past record has shown that he has delivered. And when he came in the CPP, he functioned in there, also he delivered. Another thing, his proposal will boost the Liberian economy by giving $20 million in the hands of small Liberian businesses, introducing bi-weekly payment. Instead of somebody receiving 12 paychecks in a month, they will receive 26 paychecks in a year. 12 paychecks in a year, they will receive 26 paychecks. That will boost the macroeconomy, the local economy of Liberia. Ladies and gentlemen, we are not here to beat our chest, but we know when money entering the hands of people who will spend the money, the local economy stimulates and people benefit and jobs are created. We don't process our raw material, the iron ore. We ship the iron ore. Salamintar will not be able to hire more than 2,000 people that the way we ship the iron ore. If we have a plant that process the iron ore and make metal sheets and make steel rods and also make metal beams that build high-rise buildings, you know this one better than I do, we will create more than 2,000 jobs in Liberia. We have up to 46% of the rainforest in the entire West Africa. Our forest can be compared to that of the Amazon in Brazil. We don't have one factory that manufactures furniture. Matter of fact, we do the opposite. We import furniture from different countries. When we have vast woods, timbers, logs, that we can create jobs. Mr. Comey also spoke about ecotourism. Jamaica received about $2.9, almost $3 billion, just 2023 alone, in tourism. In tourism, just Jamaica, small country. Liberia has a vast land, ecotourism, just like what they did in Lima country recently. The Eco Lodge. It's not a fancy area, but it's a place for people to go see the mountain, hike the mountain, and do all of the different things. We have natural rainforest that people can walk into and generate money. You can hire up to 2,000 young men across the nation. They don't have to have a master's degree or a PhD or even college degree. They can have a job right off the bat, and they can use that job to send themselves to school and do higher education. A job creation does not mean we have to have 5-star hotels. That's why it's called ecotourism. We can also invest into fishery. Liberia have a huge deposit of snapper, tuna fish, and shrimp. The mistake that Senegal made, we can't make the same thing. That's why the Senegalese were running to Liberia during the weird time. So I want to use back this time here for Liberians to understand that this administration started on the wrong footing, has continued to go on the wrong footing. So Mr. Samuel and the rest of the other people, don't come fool us here. We know what we're talking about, and this administration have not done enough. In fact, they are going the reverse. I yield back my time. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you. Our Honorable Eastman, take us out.
Yeah, there's many things we could have done better. It's unfortunate that the harmony and the peace we had before, we can't realize it now. I agree with both Tao and Mr. Nangbe. It was a bit too late. They're too little, too late. But notwithstanding, let's look at today. What is holding us back? You see, now it's not, is it an ethnic divide now? Because I didn't believe it was an ethnic divide before. I always believed it was simply some people had money, very few, and some people didn't. And there was some preferential treatment being given. But today, what is the problem? What is the problem that we can't get along? We are selling ourselves. It's a cash violent economy now. What's going on? It is dangerous. We have nobody who's taking Liberia at heart. What is going to happen eventually? Because all this thing what we're doing, it's going to lead to undermine everything. It's going to undermine our civil society. is going to undermine development aid and international relations. People will not give money to us when you hear this kind of thing going on in the House of Representatives. It will increase crime and insecurity. It will erode public trust. You know, it will cause our development to be stunted, and it will increase poverty and inequality. You know, I don't know how we're going to get out of this, because you and I can't go support Gay to run, because he's not able to do those heavyweights in politics over there. You come from here, you say you're going to run, they will run you over. They'll run you over. You have to be entrenched in that thing. And they have taken over the economy. I think we got yet to see a lot of stuff, unless by accident we see a new president who will want to change things, you know, like maybe a President Kuhn or somebody. But the system is what we have. I don't think it's perfect, just like Mr. Tao alludes to, but it's what we have, you know, and it requires examination. But nobody is want to take the labor to re-examine what we have and navigate a new course. It takes intense research to write up a new constitution. It takes intense research. And at the end of the day, we hope what happened to Sawyer's constitution doesn't, because according to the historians, after it went to, I think they carried to Sonic with it, and Mr. Kessley then changed it completely from what it was supposed to be. So I think we got to say pray. I think we got more than praying to do. I think the Liberian people as a whole, we just got to keep on sending the message that this is not the way we're supposed to go. And the only time it will, if we don't change this direction, it will lead to catastrophe. We have to maybe be the doomsday preachers. Maybe that will help people change. But as it's going, the way it's going now, we can only see the worst to come.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. We have another video that will be showing next week. It is what we call, when you say people, you hear the words are cliches, speaking power, speaking truth to power. You will hear a gentleman speaking truth to power in Grand Bassa County yesterday, speaking directly to the president through his wife. She went to dedicate a school, and this gentleman spoke. You will listen to when people tell you speaking truth to power, you will hear it next Sunday, right on here.
Mr.
Yes.
Real quick.
We got to go.
I just want to make a suggestion for a topic that we should consider.
Okay.
Electricity. Please, let us look into that. It's major. Excellent.
Ladies and gentlemen, next week we're going to be talking about electricity. We're going to be talking about power. How do you talk truth to power? Mr. Eastman, thank you very much. Mr. Tawo, thank you. Mr. Nambi, thank you. Mr. Gay, hopefully you'll be here next week. As always, I'm going to press the button and say we are all Liberians, even though the Unity Party, as much as you are stealing and putting our country in free fall, you are still a Liberian. Thank you, guys.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people.
Hello.